In this video, we'll continue to work with UVs for the red wagon project, and we'll take the UVs that we've just created and export them into Photoshop so we can create the pinstriping that we're looking for this object. With my UVs satisfactory, I will go to select the object in object mode, and then under polygons in the UV texture editor, I will select UV snapshot. In the UV snapshot dialog box, I'm going to set my image resolution to be 1024 pixels square, and I will browse and pick where I want to place my image. In this case, we'll go ahead and put it in the images folder where the UVs are. I'll give it a name. This will be called A Panel UV Snapshot. And I'll hit save. Image file format, I'll go ahead and set this to a JPEG and leave everything else at its default and click OK. Maya will save out a UV snapshot file, which you can see in a file browser where you specified saving it. I'll just keep my file browser out of the way. And this is our UV layout for this object. We'll be bringing this wireframe view into Photoshop to create the pinstriping as we need. We'll go ahead and open that UV snapshot into Photoshop, and we'll have a very clear idea of where the pinstriping needs to go. Since this is a red wagon, what I'll do is I'll create a new layer of red. Here I'll create a new layer, and in that layer I will paint a red color. Using the bucket tool. Now I'll want to see my UV layout so I can trace the pinstripe that I need. So I'll simply copy the background layer and place it on top. I can go in and give it a screen mode so the black in that image gives way to what's below it. Now I can go into my layer or even create a new layer for the white pinstripe. I can set my color, and I can take my brush or whatever tool I wish to use and start painting the pinstripe as we go along. Now the good thing is I've already created that stripe, and I can show you right here in Photoshop. We're going to be bringing this image back into Maya. I have saved out my Photoshop panel stripe by turning off all the wireframe snapshot layers and just putting out the pinstripe layer and the red. We'll go into the Hypershade under Window Rendering Editors, Hypershade, to import that as a file image. Currently what's assigned to the A panel is this red shader. I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of this shader by going to Edit, Duplicate Shading Network, and I'll go ahead and rename this as A Panel Decal. That way I get to keep the same exact settings for this blend, and that will match the rest of the blends that are on this wagon. For the color on the wagon decal shader, I'll click to create a file. I'm going to create texture. I'm right clicking to bring up this menu, create texture, and now we've got our file node. In the file node, I'll click on the folder icon, and I will go ahead and select the A panel stripe that will map on. Now if I hit 6 on my keyboard to make sure I've got texture preview, I'm going to select the A panel, and then in the Hypershade right click and select Assign Material to Selection. And there is our pinstripe. Now it's a little bit off, but that's quite alright. We're going to edit the UVs to get this to work right. We don't need to go back into Photoshop. We can open the UV texture editor and take a look in here and see that it's slightly misaligned. If I select the UVs on this object and then go ahead and select shell, I can use W for the move tool to move and scale until I get the right proportions that I need for the texture. I can see a preview of what's going on right here. I can see that I'm slightly off. I can also use E for rotate to slightly rotate the UVs, and that will help line up the pinstriping. Once you're happy with the location, select the object in object mode, and you should be all set. Now ours is still a little bit off, but when you're done, you can take a look at Red Wagon Texture VO2 for all the UV particulars of this object. We take a look at the UV texture editor. We see that we've got a clean layout for the UVs, the pinstriping works, and that we've even created UVs for the other side as well as the B panel, which has the Red Wagon decal. All of these files and UV snapshots are saved and ready for you in the source images file under the UV project. You can see the B panel UV layout as well as the B panel stripe that's used for that decal. You can use these files to take a look at how this is set up and to try to create your own UV layout starting with the version 1 file. The same procedures that we've used to separate and reshape the UVs for the front side of this A panel hold true for the front side of the B panel. In this video, we took a look at how to use UVs and UV snapshots in Photoshop to recreate the pinstriping to be accurately put back on our model.